Hello, good evening and welcome, and we're here this evening to Let's Talk Drama. You're welcome to the Newgrange here in County Meath, and we have a wonderful evening ahead of us, we hope, of chat. We have award-winning playwright Deirdre Kinahan here, and Deirdre has kindly given God's Hotel to Navan Theatre Group to produce this year. This play is previously unproduced, and we're delighted to have the opportunity to do it. We have Johnnie Grant here tonight as well. Johnnie is going to direct this year's spring production for Navan Theatre Group. So we'll start off without further ado. Deirdre, you're very welcome.
Thanks a million.
We're delighted to have you, and we've a couple of questions, I suppose, and interest in this play. The first thing I suppose I'll say about it is it's has a few laughs. It is a lot of tears, but a lot of laughter in this play. A typical Irish family with a bit of a shock when Mags is told she has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Mm-hmm. I suppose the first thing we'll say about it is the dynamics of that family and how this diagnosis affects everybody from the start.
Yeah.
She's a strong character though, Mags.
She is, yeah. I mean, I suppose the play, I wrote it, I think, about 10 years ago. I think it was around 2012.
Okay.
And it was, I suppose it sprung really out of my own grief and my own thinking around my mother's death. My mother had died of lung cancer in 2004. And, my mother was an amazing character, and she was just my best friend as well as my mother, and I was kind of devastated by her death. She died at 70, and I suppose I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about that time and the time we had together, and I was thinking about the treatment and how harsh the treatment was, and really if we had gone again, if I could have gone back in time, would we have gone that journey? Yes. But of course, if there's a chance at life, you'll always give it a go. So I think that's where the initial kind of spark of the play came from.
Yes.
And I wanted to write a play about a woman who finds herself in this situation. It's a terminal diagnosis. As we know, many people get diagnosis of cancer and survive. I had breast cancer myself 3 years ago, so I've walked the road since I wrote the script. But I wanted to allow this woman to take her own death, to take control of the situation, and to say, do you know what, guys, I want to die my way. I don't want to go through this treatment. And then imagine the dynamic of that within a family, kind of looking at the standard Irish family and the kind of patriarchal society that we come from, about how it suddenly all becomes about each member's grief and how they don't want their mother to die and how they respond to her decision to kind of just go, if I've got 6 weeks, I want them to be a good 6 weeks.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So it's about control. It's about how we actually have control of nothing.
Yes.
But we kind of kid ourselves and cod ourselves into believing that we have some sense of control over our own lives. But of course, losing your mother is always one of the most destabling things that is ever going to happen to you. It's like somebody pulls the rug out from under your feet. So it's all of those kind of emotions and lessons packaged into a play that, as you said, is not only tearful and emotional, but it's very funny and it's very real, and in the end of the day it's all about love.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot going on within the family. I know I kind of had a little look through it there, and Fergal and his dad John, there's a very interesting relationship there with them. I know that Fergal is away at the moment. He's away from the family situation, and he's brought back into the fold by this news. He also has a lot going on, as his father is kind of saying to him, one of the things he says to him is, I don't think about your life outside of here, hinting at his sexuality, hinting at, his own partner's death as well. Jim has died as well. And I just found that very interesting, Deirdre, the way you brought that relationship into it as well. That Fergal is nearly telling him that everything is going to be okay because he's had this grief, he's had this loss.
Exactly. So it's kind of it's an unusual turn of events that the younger son can actually coach the older father in grief. And I think that relationship between Fergal and John it's just an echo of that very Irish male father-son relationship where the conversation is all on one particular level, but it never goes deep. And it's never it's never quite real.
Yes.
You know, so you have the typical, you know, the father, you know, reading the paper, you know, talking about the GAA, talking about anything other than the fact that his daughter is finding it difficult to conceive a baby, talking about anything other than the fact that his gay son is still, you know, really raw and devastated by a particular event in his life.
Yes.
He'll just focus on, you know, politics, the European
norm.
Union, the GAA, and it's a kind of it's not mocking it, but it's showing that these conversations that happen, that we all participate in, you could be talking about quiche, but actually, you know, there's a whole subplot going on there, aching to be opened.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's what like. It's a lovely relationship. Like, I'm very fond of the father, John, and like he just loves Mags and he wants her to live at any cost. So it's about how the family not only dealing with their own insistence that she goes for the treatment because they want her to survive, but also looking at their father and wondering how is he going to survive, and in the end of the day, it's really, I wanted my mother to know that even when she was gone, the linchpin of our family, we were all okay.
Yes.
And that's really what this is with Mags as well. Death is as much a part of life as living.
Yes.
And we all survive it. And the reason it's hard is sometimes just because there's so much love knocking around that table.
Yeah, absolutely. And Johnnie, I think, you know, it's no mean feat to direct a play with all these characters that they're just talking about here. 9 characters on stage, 9 people in the cast. How are you finding the dynamics of that? It's a lot of scene changes, a lot of different things going on, isn't there, in this play?
Yeah. Well, the writing makes it easier in some ways.
Not so bad, Deirdre.
I think there's 12 scene changes in the first act. You probably didn't even divide it into acts here, I don't know, but we cut off at 41 anyway, page 41. And what we call the second act, I think there's 11 scene changes. But yet there's no... They blend into one another and they come out of one another, you know. But it's in the writing. Like, all I have to do, we're working on the characterization, we just follow the script because it's so well written. And to pick up on a point you made a minute ago, it's her death, Mags' death, that actually ultimately makes all the members of the family strong. Like, they all become strong, including the dad and including the daughter. And when she gets to that level, when she sees that happening, then she can walk off into the great horizon. You know? Yeah. But it's very interesting. Like, when you have such a diverse number of people, you know, and 2 of them are ghosts. By the way.
that was a great point. I was actually going to say to you about the ghostly figures in this, and. Yeah, that's very interesting. You have this out of body experience, I suppose, with these 2 characters.
But you see, there's a month to go, Deirdre. I don't want to frighten you or anything like that. There's a month for us to go. And when we read it, we had about 2 weeks of reading, and as much as we read it, right, it's only every time we go into rehearsals we see something else. Right? And we see the importance of Mags is preparing to die. And we see that more and more as we go into rehearsals. I didn't see that. I knew she was going to die, but I can see it coming through the writing now. And it's just our problem is, or not our problem, but our goal is to make sure that the audience could see the same thing.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine it all the time from row Z at the back of the audience. You
Of
know?
course.
Yes.
But every time I write a play, Johnnie, I have the audience sitting front and centre,
Yeah.
from row Z right through the.
Yeah.
That's who I write plays for. That's who I get plays from.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always say that as a playwright. Like, we take your stories, your experiences, and reimagine them, and try and sort them out and ask questions and explore these experiences that I might not personally have had, and then present them back to you to see how you respond to that. That's what theatre is. It's a very dynamic kind of partnership, and without the audience, it ain't a play. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like, so my notion, I remember back in the time, like, I love ghosts, I've always been fond of ghosts,
Yes.
sure, we're surrounded by ghosts.
Yes.
As I said, my ma died, she was only 70, I was just kicking off my career. The reason I'm a playwright is because my mother loved plays, brought me to the theatre from the time I was 8. She had a little partner who was as obsessed with it all as she was.
Yes.
And my career began to take off about the year before she died. And now I'm in New York, and I'm in Chicago, and I'm in the Abbey, and I'm in London, and I'm sitting there going, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because she'd be in the
Yeah.
foyer, she'd be chatting to,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
So she's with me.
So you feel she's
Oh,
present.
my
she's
mother's present in
Yeah,
me all
yeah.
the time, and many other. And I've got a really good pal who died quite young. I often talk to Karen. I mean, you know, my kids go, "Oh, Jesus,"
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you know. But it's. I just think we all have our ghosts.
Yeah.
Our ghosts are everywhere
Yeah.
with us. But in this play, I had the notion, like, Mags is funny. She's feisty. She's her own woman. She's making her own decision even at the end, and she's in a halfway house. She's in God's hotel.
Yes.
She's in the foyer. She knows she's heading off. So her ghosts are much, much, much more present
Yes.
to her now.
Yes.
And her family, who at the beginning of the play are immediately around her and part of her, they start to move away from her as she moves towards this
Yes.
other place. So there's kind of 3 layers, you know,
Oh, yeah.
there are 3 tenses, there are 3 different universes knocking around.
Yes.
And I know when I was writing it, like I'm writing plays 22 years now, but I had just had a couple of big hits and my career was really taking off, and I was in a much more confident place as a writer, much more sure of myself, and much happier to play. So like in this play, I have 3 scenes at one point that are all happening at the same time.
You know about them.
And I know, and I had always imagined them like 3 spinning plates, and I remember laughing,
Yes.
writing them,
Yeah.
you know, going, God, how's that going to work, you know? So I'll see you in Solstice.
Yeah. We're wondering how's it going to work in Deirdre.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's something I found interesting was the ghosts in it, you know, and Mags and her mother is ever present there on
Yeah.
stage, I think, for most of the play, you know, and it's very interesting. The concept of it, I suppose, which you've just explained, really is that she's ever present in her life, really, and she's getting closer to her, you know.
And as she gets stronger, as her offspring gets stronger, you talked about her move, like the family move away from her in terms of as she's moving to death, perhaps, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because she can embrace death better when she knows her family can survive without her, you know.
Yeah, that's her motivation, yeah.
And it's you weave it like it's lovely. It's so well weaved and it comes out, well, we think it's lovely in the end as well, you know. And what we're noticing lately now in our rehearsals is that you can have the most poignant moment, a little conversation, we say, between the daughter and the mother, and then there'll be a daft moment that comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim the gay lad comes in and he says something daft and silly,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
Or they'll talk about weird things, you know, like grisly death and being in Shercock and being the queen, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of counterbalanced. Then later on the same thing will happen. Just as there's a deep, very sorrowful, poignant moment, in comes a bit of
comedy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jim is certainly a great character
Oh,
for
yes,
that,
he's a
isn't
great
he?
character.
And I love his relationship with Mags as well. You know, he seems to have really struck a note with her. She was so fond of him, you know, and it really comes. He's excellent, you know, as a character, and he brings that humour and that laughter through, doesn't he? Yeah, it's great stuff.
Like all things like poignant and sad, there is comedy. Like, you know, like in all the great works, you can see the same thing. You know?
Yeah, and sometimes at times of great trauma or times of great stress, you know, it's a real release, you know, for the people who are living it, let alone when you put it in a play and for the people watching it, you know. But I think with Jim as well, because I wrote, you know, like again, it was 10 years ago when I wrote it, and I suppose I was coming out of, like, I was a child of the 80s, you know, and I was just watching the documentary there the other night on Vincent Hanley, you know, MTV.
Yes.
And like, you forget now, because thankfully Ireland is so progressive and so embracing and so open and a very diverse society where, you know, we just embrace people regardless.
They are,
But to be a gay man or woman when I was growing up was anathema, do you know? Like, you never heard of it, you didn't understand it, it was illegal, it was all. And so many people suffered so dreadfully in that. And there was a big kind of shift in the 90s, and it became more visible and more present, and gay people themselves became more comfortable in their sexuality. And I suppose, you know, Jim, I had a really good friend who I went to school with. She's one of my best friends, still one of my closest friends. And it was that bizarre situation where we kind of all knew she was gay, but you never really talked about being gay, or you never thought about being gay, or what it was to be gay. So even though she was going out with a guy, we all expected that she'd just marry him and have kids, if that's what she was going to do, same as the rest of us. And then when she didn't, and she went away, and then she came back and kind of said, I'm gay, we all kind of went, yeah, we know. And she said, well, that was a bit of an anti-drama. But it was, you know, like the kind of madness of it. And I suppose Jim is a gay man. At the time that this was written, around, you know, kind of 2012, he's flamboyant. He appears to be totally comfortable. But he came from a small town, Shercock. He was ridiculed as a boy. That ridiculing, that bullying, that difference still haunted him through his life. And now he haunts Mags in his decision. She loved him and was really annoyed with him because of the way he died. And there's some counterpoint to the fact that she doesn't want to die. She wants to stay with her family, and she's really kind of angry with him in the way a lot of us would be angry with people who make decisions that, you know, we don't agree with, who decide to take their own life or whatever. But yet you get to see it from his point of view. So there's kind of another element of understanding, and it's really all about, you know, who are we to judge? You know?
And I found Deirdre as, and I'm getting more comfortable in this when we're dealing with the play, that like we're trying to sort of like, what should Mag say this line, strong or weak or angry or that, and we keep changing. We're still layering as we're going along. And now I'm beginning to be more comfortable in the notion that if the audience walk out of the auditorium on the night saying, God, I wondered this, or I wondered that, or I'd say, grand. We've kind of done our job. Like, we're not there to answer questions.
No.
We're not there to come up with
We're there to ask them.
Ask the questions.
That's
and let them walk out and say, should Jim have done this? Should Mags have gone for further treatment? Was Grania right? But we throw it out there. Let's see. And it's done so well in the play.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I suppose that as a playwright, that's what I think theatre is. Theatre is where you ask the questions. Theatre's where you try and understand. It's a place of empathy. It's a place where you can really dig into the dark corners of people's psyche and society, but you can do it in a safe place. And you can do it in a magical way. And if you get your audience to connect, and of course there's 9 people, you know, we'll all find somebody that we relate to. Are you the nurse? You know, are you the completely emotionally constipated brother? Are you the you know, the kind of easy guy? You know, like who are you? You'll find somebody you connect with. And once you do, you'll go on a journey with them, you know? And I mean, they're a beautiful family, and it's a very warm journey that they're going on. You know, like they're very together. It starts to break apart, but then they kind of come back together. It's a bit like the stages of grief, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know,
but your opening and closing, the way you constructed those, like the bookend, the same scene bookends. And it's a dinner, and they're celebrating. Even though she's ready to go. It's lovely.
I'm notorious for that, Johnnie. Absolutely. More food, more booze. I drive them mad. but I mean, there's nothing real about this either, because the you know, is it through Mag's perspective? You know, so you don't have to have the tea and the buns, and I always saw it a bit like a Tom and Jerry cartoon. You know, like in Bugs Bunny, where scenes would just squish away from the screen.
You say that in some of your directions. I don't think you use the word squish. It's just the scene is just pulled away.
Sucked away.
Sucked away.
Yes,
Sucked away. Wow, how am I going to do that?
But it all makes for...
But I mean, we're growing in confidence, myself and the players. Like,
I'm delighted.
You know, because like last night now we're having problems with people on shift work and this and that. So last night we had 5 members that showed up, and we got a little makeup artist come in, and she's going to help us. But and we sat. I didn't move anything. We just sat around, and we put mics through our paces last night, and we had little conversations about, should she be angry? Should she be angrier? Or should she be softer? Or should she be this? And everybody has an input. Like sitting, because they're all thinking about it.
Of course.
That's great.
Like, you know, even like if whoever the guy is playing Fergal is thinking of what Mag should be doing, Mags is thinking how Fergal should be reacting, and you know, there's a lot of that interplay. But as I said, we're still layering, Deirdre. I hope you like what we end up with.
I'm sure I will. I'm sure it'll be fabulous. It'll be great.
But to see it eventually on stage, it'll be fantastic
It'll be
for
lovely.
you. You know, it'll be lovely for you.
Oh, absolutely. It's close to my heart, you know. And you see, it was my mother, so I didn't send it off in the brown envelope to theatres left, right, and centre, you know. And like, it's very unusual for me to have a play that hasn't been produced, you know. I was really thrilled when you guys came. Because I
know we read it during COVID.
You read it during COVID,
and we did it on the whole Zoom thing, which is very different, you know, as well. And so it's great to see it.
Absolutely, it's going to be inhabited, you know, and it's going to be up on its feet, and it's going to get that airing, and it's going to, you know, and that audience participation, and I mean, it means a great deal to me.
And lovely to have it here in Solstice in March. We'll throw out the dates when we're here, Johnnie, from the 22nd to the 26th. So nice and local as well, which is great, you know. And Deirdre, just with amateur dramatics, you know, and to let your play go on this amateur dramatic group as well, and go on this run with them, you must be a big fan of amateur dramatics and the whole scene. It's just so big in the country in the minute, isn't it?
I have nothing but respect for the amateur drama movement, and I think it's just kind of quite incredible that it's so vibrant in Ireland and indeed in the UK. And as I was saying to the guys outside, I mean, like from the time I was 8, first play I ever saw actually was Talca Row. And that was in a pub called Beavers in Ballantyre. And my mother brought me, I was about 8. And that was an amateur drama group. And like that was my mother. Like she brought me to the Focus, she brought me to the Peacock, she brought me to the Abbey, she brought me to the Gate, she brought me to the local amateur drama. And it was all the same as far as I was concerned. You know, it was all theatre. And then when I left, I did a couple of plays when I was in college. And then when I left college, I ended up kind of going into this accountancy firm, working with computers, going, what am I doing here? But that's where I found myself, and I was going, all I want to be is an actress. So I joined an amateur drama group, Strand Players in Dublin, and did a few plays and did the circuit and did all that jazz.
Fantastic.
And and then it was myself and a very good friend of mine, Maureen Collender, who met through amateur drama. I went away for a couple of years, and then when I came back, you know, we were both standing there going, how do you get in? How do you get professional theatre? Like, you don't just kind of knock on the door. So we said, well, we put on a play. So we put on a play called Edison Lovage by Peter Schaefer, which had a brilliant part in it for me, and a brilliant part in it for Maureen.
Wow.
Exactly. And we did it in the church in Dublin Castle, which was it was one of those venues that amateur groups or professional groups would use. And like the friends who were in it were all from the amateur group. Johnnie Walsh, the design. They were all people we knew from the amateur movement. But Maureen and I had decided we wanted to go professional, and but we didn't know how you did it. So we just started putting on plays. And slowly but surely we kind of came to the attention of a couple of journalists and the Arts Council, and we started applying for funding. And then, you know, started working with professional players. So that's how I got into it.
But it's all rooted back to
all rooted back. But also, if you think about Ireland, because I'm always writing about Ireland and I'm kind of obsessed with Irish history and all the rest. But I mean, like, our state grew out of pageantry, poetry, drama. The leaders of our revolutions were all artists. You know, so, and like we're all artists, and I kind of think with COVID as well, I think there's a renewed sense of, oh my God, I missed my music.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, I missed my theatre. You know, I think there's a really great appreciation of it. And the sense that we're, you know, there's no separate, like, don't even like the notion of amateur or professional or community. I don't think that those kind of divisions serve anyone. We all love it. We're all under the spell of it. And like some amazing talent, you know, is in the amateur world. And I totally recognise that.
For sure. I mean, we see it on a local level and rural, you know, areas putting on these small little halls, these little places, putting on these plays, packed out for 3 nights. You know, it's fantastic. Like, Johnnie, you're in this scene a long time, I'm sure, as well.
But it used to be quite close shop way back. Like if you were say part of the Navan Players and that's it, or part of the Navan Theatre Group, that's it. It has all changed in the last 20 years. And we kind of had something to do with that as well. Like we would encourage Trim to come over to us, or Kells, or Wilkinstown. And you, like if you don't get a part in the Navan crowd and you hear those readings, and there's an acceptance now that you can go around. You know? But back in the day, it was like the, you know.
She's like parish GA.
That's right,
you're a wolf town. You're a wolf town for life.
But it's lovely. It's lovely. You know? And I remember we used to invite. We said Trim to come to our shows, and Trim would invite us to go to their shows. And it kind of created this lovely atmosphere, you know, and we all kind of vaguely knew one another, we'd be aware of what's going on, you know. I think it's great.
I think it's fantastic, and everybody helps everybody out, you know what I mean? Whoever's, you know, do you need this, do you need that, you know, what's going on, so it's great, it's great at the minute. Well listen, I think we've a lot to look forward to in the next couple of weeks. For sure. Deirdre, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
And we've enjoyed it. And Johnnie, best of luck in the next few weeks with what's going ahead.
And thank you for the trust you're showing in us.
Oh, sure. I'm delighted.
We leave tonight knowing that whatever we do, it'll be the best we can do.
Absolutely,
so
no doubt about it.
That gets the where you're satisfied anyway.
I'm me and everybody else in that auditorium. I'm sure.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, folks.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.